It is February 9th, 2026, and I am just now finally starting to have some serious success within my coaching business. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because I've been on both sides of this coin of having success within my career. I've had success when I was a web developer and I was 320 pounds and I had just stopped playing college football. I was no longer like a top of the line athlete as an offensive lineman. I was just a fat guy. And genuinely, I hated that. I never really talked about it at the time, but I hated looking in the mirror and seeing my belly literally just like flop over my pants. Like I hated when I sat down at work and my belt prongs would just poke up into my belly fat. That was the worst feeling in the world. Seriously. And I remember I saw this picture of me actually on a family cruise on a time when I should have been so happy. Like I should have been so happy, and I was that day until I saw the picture. Saw that taken and I was like, oh my God. Is this seriously how I look when I write code all day? And man, in one of should have been like the happiest times of the year, you're on vacation, you're on a cruise, you're with people you love, you see a picture of yourself and it almost just snaps you into this like self-destructive cycle of not liking the way you look so much that it causes you to, start binge eating a little bit or, start eating more, eating unhealthy. Whatever vice is yours, mine was food. And man, that is such a terrible position to be in because not only was I having success with my career, I was working as a web developer, I was building up my career, I wasn't able to enjoy it because I spent my days at work while I was writing code thinking about how uncomfortable it was to barely even fit in the chair I was sitting in or worry about every damn chair that I sat in was gonna break down when I sat in it. Like it's ridiculous the things you think about when you're fat, but that's all that I thought about. And it didn't matter how strong I was the strongest I'd ever been in my life. I squatted over 500 pounds at that point, but it didn't matter because I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. But now that I've had a little bit of financial success, both within my job as a software engineer now and with my coaching business, it is, man, every dime, every dollar, every minute, every hour that I have spent working on my health and losing 120 pounds, it's been the greatest investment I've ever made. There is nothing like being in a spot in your life where you're having success in every area. Like I have my dream girl, which is crazy. I have a nice paying job. I run a coaching business. And I love what I see in the mirror. It's crazy. When you get all of the infinity stones like that, your life, all those individually, great. When they're put all together, it's special. It is very special. And I was talking to one of my newest client the other day, and what he was telling me was one of the big reasons he joined was actually kind of the reason I'm making this video, is because he felt like how I felt. He felt like even though he's had all of this success in his life, he's climbed the ladder of his job. I don't want to air out too much of his business, but he's climbed the ladder, he's made good money, but he still feels like he's not able to truly enjoy the fruits of his labor because his health is not in check. It's been 5 or 10 years of him saying every single year that he was finally going to take action on his goals. And every single time that you say you're going to do that, but you don't, it just makes you feel worse. So then what do you do after that? You go straight back to food, or you go straight back to whatever your vice is. And then the cycle just keeps on repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's a vicious cycle to break yourself from. And a lot of guys that are in that position, myself included when I was in that position, and I would assume him as well, feel like they kind of missed that athletic fire or that kind of drive that they had at one point, whether you played sports or not. I played college football. When I played college football, I was the most driven I had ever been. But as soon as I got out of that, it was like, man, well, what do I do now? And I felt like that athletic drive, like that push to just be better every single day, day after day after day, was just gone. And that hurt because I had always relied on that. Like that was always such a big part of me, was that I am going to be the guy who puts in work. But then when that opportunity wasn't there, it you kind of fall into old habits a little bit. And luckily I caught myself out of that before the loop really caught me into that riptide effect where you just get pulled out into the ocean of that loop. But if I didn't, man, obviously I wouldn't be making this video, but would I have as much success in my career? I don't know. You know, I think a rising tide raises all ships, and focusing on your health is a huge part of that, right? And I think I would rather be dirt poor and be healthy than be rich and not have my health in check. I think that being healthy is truly having wealth. I think you can have money, but you don't have to. You can have money, but you cannot have wealth. I think wealth is a systemic thing. It comes when you have all areas of your life in check, or at least you're working towards getting all of your areas in your life in check. Whether that be health, your career, finances, maybe outside of your career, if you're like a side hustle, your relationships, your spirituality. I'm sure I'm missing one, but when you have all of those in check, or at least you're working on those, that raises all of the tides of the others. It raises the ships. All of the ships in the harbor get raised, right? And I think one of the biggest parts of why guys are never able to do this is because it's such a scary decision to get started. You know, you get into this comfortable rhythm after years and years of being out of shape, of eating whatever you want and not hating yourself for that decision, but you're rewarded by your career because you put your career ahead of your own health. You know, you get into this riptide effect, like I was talking, where you just get stuck in this cycle month after month, year after year, and for some guys, decade after decade, or even their whole life. And that's why most guys never get out of that position, because they're never able to take the risk on themselves. And I'm not talking like, oh, you know, we're truly making like a huge investment. I'm talking like making the risk and betting on themselves to actually put in the work. Most guys will never lose a pound in their life because they're not willing to bet on their future self to keep the promise that they make today. Most guys in their life will never lose a single pound because they're not willing to bet on their future self. They can't even trust themselves. And what does that lead to? It leads to low confidence. That affects every area of your life. And one of the big things that I think about when I see somebody who is overweight is it's like, I just think that that's a lack of respect for yourself. I think what you put into your body shows how you care about yourself. And this is one of my big things, but I don't agree with the body positivity movement. I don't agree with that. I think true body positivity is loving yourself enough to be healthy. I think that's loving yourself enough to care about what you put into your body, right? I mean, man, I'm getting on a side tangent, but how did we get to this point with body positivity where we're celebrating killing ourselves early with food? That's a terrible place to be in. Like, what are we doing? Seriously, what are we doing? People would much rather make excuses as to why they're not looking the way they want or in the correct shape that they should be, but then use, oh, I just love myself. I'm going to love myself the way I am. You should love yourself, but part of loving yourself is loving yourself enough to be in good physical health. That way you can finally enjoy the fruits of your labor from all of the successes within your career. Because let me bring this back to the start. I'm finally starting to have some success in my coaching business, and I'm finally only able to truly enjoy that because I'm in shape. I'm able to go and do all the things that I wanted to do. I'm able to spend the money on experiences that I want to do. I was able to go zip lining in, where were we at? I think we were in Cabo. We were in Cabo or Ensenada for the first time in my entire life a couple months ago. I never thought I would be able to go to zip lining because I was literally too fat for my entire life. My entire life, I have never fit in the weight limit for zip lining. But I was still able to do that in Mexico, Cabo or Ensenada, whichever one. What an experience that was. I was only able to enjoy that because I focused on my health with such a priority. I invested so much time, money, and energy into my health, and it's been the biggest return on investment I've ever got. Better than investing in mentorship for coaching, better than investing in college for my software development job. It is the biggest return on investment you will ever get. because you cannot truly enjoy any other investment you make until you have your health in check. I mean, think about all of the things that you just genuinely cannot do if you're out of shape. Like, maybe you're not going to be able to ride roller coasters with your children because you can't fit in the roller coaster. Maybe you're not able to take your children ziplining because you're over the weight limit. Maybe you're not able to go to the water park with your children because you're over the weight limit. Maybe you're not comfortable taking your shirt off and showing your kids what it's like to be a confident man. All of those come back to your health. You have got to make your health a priority in 2026. Chances are, you know what you could be doing to change your health and your situation with that. But you're not. So now you have to ask yourself, because I can't do this for you, you have to ask yourself, what changes do you need to make? And I'm not talking about with your diet. Everybody knows that they clean up their eating and they eat apples instead of Oreos, they're probably going to lose weight. I'm talking about what is the changes with your identity that you need to make so that you can keep this weight off for the rest of your life. You never have to put weight on, or you never have to cut weight again. And you actually finally become the man who is worthy of all of the successes that he's having with his career. Because like I said, with my newest client, he had risen like the corporate ladder within the company that he was in. But he's not been able to enjoy that success, that financial success, truly as much as he could be if he was in shape. So you have to ask yourself, what internal changes do you need to make? What type of person do you need to be? What type of risks do you need to take? Because my newest client, he just took a risk and invested in my coaching. He told me right after, he said, he said, what did he say? I don't want to misquote him. Shit. He said he was just feeling so much nervousness and anxiety right after committing. And I said, why is that? He said, because I don't know if I'll follow through. And I said, do you think that with me texting you every single day, that with all of the software, all of the systems I have, and all of the support I'm going to give you, it's possible for you to fail if you put in effort? And he said, no. And that's why we're working together. That is the type of risk that you need to take on yourself. I'm not saying you have to work with a coach. I'm saying you need to take risks on yourself. If you give yourself a way back, you will take it. You cannot give yourself a way back. You will get into this point midway through your journey. I felt it. I know everybody who's lost weight has felt this. You will get to this point where the life you are living right now, where you hate the way you look, where you sit down in your desk chair and your love handles literally spill over your waistband and like push into the chair. You will get to this point where you forget how much that sucks and you will go back. You will. If there is a way back, you will take it. I've seen it time and time again. And the only way to give yourself no way back is to take a risk and inform a new identity. Think about this. Within the Marvel multiverse, this is what I'm going to leave you off with today. Within the Marvel multiverse, there is an infinite number of you, right? I know you guys are a bunch of nerds just like I am. That's why I have my Star Wars head right here, and I have my Warhammer 40,000 Redemptor Dreadnought right here. Within the Marvel multiverse, there is a million infinite versions of you. There's a version of you out there that has done everything that you want to do with your health, your fitness, your career, your relationships. Think about it. What does he do? What does he not do? And what's holding you back from getting there? Write those questions down. Answer them honestly. Then, this is what I do with all my clients. I'm giving you free game that I charge for. Then, write down 3 of your biggest goals. Then, write down why you were never going back to where you are right now. Now, obviously on our onboarding call, if you choose to work with me, we would go over that. I'd make sure that it's actually very meaningful for you. Then we have some more exercises that I do to make it extremely personable and memorable for you. But do that exercise and you'll start to form this image of what that 2.0 version of you looks like. Once you have them in your head, now you just start acting like them. Do you think that if you acted like that version of you for 90 days straight, you wouldn't be any closer to your goals? Think about that. 2026 is the year for you to actually change your life, and I genuinely believe that. Because that's the belief that I had in myself when I started. And because I laid out this version of me, I was able to finally start acting like him and truly change my life, not just eat better for 90 days and then peg out and put all of it back on and feel shitty about myself. And then 5 years go by and I try to do the same thing with the newest fad diet, or I talk to ChatGPT for hours getting 20 pages of information. No, none of that shit happens because I changed who I was. That's how you get the long-term results. That is how you truly change your life. The first link in the description is going to be the application to my one-on-one coaching. If I think you're a good fit based on your answers, I will personally reach out to you on Instagram. Peace.